Good morning, Bears. It is always a joy to be with you, even if just for a little bit. And that is, interestingly enough, all we've got this morning. I got started a little late here, so I'm going to have to get out and walk some dogs. But it was for a good cause. My wife and I got up actually at our regular time, but we just spent some time talking and hanging with each other, which we haven't done as much of lately. Kind of a necessary thing to do. Like, you guys are kind of going to lose out when it comes to my wife. That's just the thing. You know, I figure sometimes I'm going to make time, but we're going to try to do both. So we're going to try to set the alarm for 6:30. See, we set the alarm for 7. We don't end up getting out of bed until like 7:15. We hate the alarm. So we have to allot for the fact that the alarm is not going to motivate us in and of itself to get out of bed. And so we compensate for that by setting it off earlier. And we give ourselves this period of time to say, okay, we need to get out of the bed. So we're awake and we're gradually becoming really awake. So sausage in the chat. Guys are killing me. Yeah, that's what I said. I did Warface. I said snooze button time, right? Except, thankfully, we've put the alarm clock out of our reach, so not a whole lot of snoozing. We're trying to snooze, but with the alarm playing a bunch of oldies music. My wife is a big fan of the oldies station in town, so we're often listening to a lot of that. Is it oldies? No, it's something else. I'm going to have to holler at my lady. Maybe I'll text her. Because now I'm wondering about that. That doesn't sound right. It's not oldies. It's like GLO or something. What's the radio station that you have going off in the mornings? Question mark. That's right. I punctuate my texts. I don't know. I couldn't think of it for the life of me. But yeah, it's got good stuff. There's some Fogarty that goes on in there. Some old CCR. We have to get our feet cold to hit the button. That's right. That's right. Once they're cold, we're up, man. No, gotta let your soul chill. Your soul. No. Is that... Well, is that... what style? Super hits. Okay, super hits. So it's like classic hits from various different decades. That's what that's about. Hang on. Thank you, beautiful lady bear. Period. There you go. So I can communicate without having to yell or anything in the house. I think that's probably unbecoming. So I chose not to do that. I'm grateful that everybody popped in here that did, at least for a few minutes here. Who likes what name? Let's see. I'm just reading chats here. Howdy, Steve. We got Steve up in here. That's a good thing. Yeah, it's going to be a short stream. I'm going to actually be streaming for another maybe 5 minutes. Like, I'm not even kidding with you guys. Short stream today. Because I got to get out of here and go walk some dogs. I've got more dogs today than I do other days. Wednesday's going to be like the most massive amount of dogs that I'll walk. And so I was just talking with everybody else here, Steve, that I'm going to be enacting a plan to wake up earlier, because we don't do that naturally. We don't desire to do that. I don't naturally go to bed when I ought to. I usually like to sit up for a little while, and I'm going to have to work myself into not doing that as much. And I'm also going to have to work myself into waking up, say, around 6:30. Maybe actually getting out of the bed by 6:45. And then I might actually be here by 7:30. That's entirely possible. I could get this stream going at a decent time and have enough time to really do a decent length stream before I got to go out and walk dogs. You were tired of people thinking you were pro-death. Yeah, I guess a lot of people didn't understand the meaning behind Mayor McDeath. I get that. But I always dug it. I got that you were like thinking Mayor McCheese, but Mayor McCheese, all that is McDonald's, and McDonald's is death. You know, I understood the fast food non-love reference there. Honky Bear does love his awesome cubs. Yes, you can get a shout out to your kids, sir. Absolutely. Because that is why, in fact, I am on this planet, to take care of my wonderful children, to raise them up so that they can make wonderful children. I probably won't be as descriptive about that process as Owen is, but it was going through my mind right there when I said it. But I was like, no, I'm not going to. I'll leave that to him. That's his way. He makes life with his, it's not exactly the style on the stream here, but I support him 100% in all that. By the way, thought I'd just mention this real quick. Yeah, right. They do take care of you, right? It is interesting. I had my older boys over here last night, and I was actually introducing them to a little bit of Monty Python. A couple old Monty Python's Flying Circus episodes. Ones that were a little tamer, nothing too heavy. And most of that series wasn't too awful, but there were some bits that were really well put together. There was this bit called It's the Mind. It was a show that they had on, and it was about psychiatry, and they were exploring on It's the Mind. They were exploring the concept of deja vu, and the spokesperson, the commentator on the show, was suddenly experiencing deja vu, like really over and over and over again. It was freaking him out. And so they were doing the show, repeating clips and referring to things in the show over and over and over again. It was just funny. There was, let me think now, an episode back at the beginning of it all where at the very, the second episode, the first one I ever saw was episode 2. Well, it is Monty Python. That's probably why it makes you think. Let's see here. Yeah, it was the second episode and the whole deal. And there was a bit that my second son really got into. He thought that was kind of funny. It was a priest, or Monsignor, I guess he was, a Catholic Monsignor, and a humanist lecturer. So they were being introduced on this show called The Epilogue, and that evening they were going to instead of discuss the existence or non-existence of God, they were going to fight for it in a wrestling ring. And what was kind of funny was that the humanist guy was just tossing the Monsignor all over the ring there. But at the very end of the show, they tag back in and say that, the existence of God was decided by 2 falls to a submission, so pretty funny. We had some fun digging into those and looking at how they structure the comedy, like why different things are funny. Hey, anytime, Honky Bear. Absolutely. Glad to give you a shout out. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a neat deal to share some of that with him. I found out about Monty Python when I was, probably 11, 10 or 11. My uncle showed it to me. The Holy Grail, right? Monty Python and the Holy Grail was a classic. So some of that is not for kids, and I'm aware. I'm like, I'm not ready to go there. But some things, the way they structure jokes is just plain silly, and what they're satirizing or parodying in some cases very specifically is funny. They had something that was almost prophetic in a way. It was a spoof on the way that media and I guess the British community at large, as they saw it in the 70s, was looking at the gay community, the rise of an openly gay community out there. And good morning, Bisky. Glad you're here. We've got Dom up in here too. Yeah, it was a spoof on that whole idea of the public perception of the openly gay community. Some of it was possibly accurate, but I think it was probably exaggerated because they're far lefties, you know, so I get it. But far lefties in the 70s, you know, whatever that's worth. So instead of it being an expose on the gay community, it was in fact changing that up and saying that there's a subculture within Britain of men who want to be mice, who want to dress up as mice and believe that they are mice. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you know, like just thinking about that, like that was so far ahead of its time. They were interviewing John Cleese, and Cleese was actually pretending to be a member of this group, you know, saying that, you know, the interviewer was Terry Jones, and he was like, how did you know you wanted to be a mouse? You know, it's like, well, I don't know, it just sort of happens to you. One day you wake up and you realize that's what you want to be, you know. And when did you first start noticing these, shall we say, tendencies? Well, I think I've always been. Did he say it was like when I was a boy or something like that? As I got older, you know, I was at a party, made some mates, and we'd had quite a lot to drink, and then one of the mates started handing cheese around, and well, that was that. You know, it's like it progressed. It got further along. He started out, you know, you go to these mouse parties, and you know you might try some of the cheese, you know, brie or camembert or cheddar or Gouda if you're on the harder stuff, right? And it was just so expertly done as a satire in this whole thing. It was, I don't know if you consider it satire or parody. I really want to get into the definitions of these things a little more clearly. I think it was satire, unless they're like actually calling out a specific newscast where they were talking to a guy from the homosexual community, then it's satire. If it's, then it's parody. If it's satire, then it'd just be one that's made up similarly to, you know, in a way that's, I guess, like what they'd seen. But parodies, when they do it where it's like shot for shot, the same kind of thing. And they've done plenty of that too. They were really, really good at both. Well, it's a little bit of, I think there's a little bit of both. Like satire, I think was like say All in the Family, Archie Bunker, those guys, as I understand it, what they were doing, what Carol O'Connor was trying to do with that show was satire on the American family. So it wasn't a specific family. It was that they were making fun of. It was just a general idea. Whereas parody is what Crowder does. When Crowder takes a clip from, say, Jaws, or I'm trying to think another film that some film he did with De Niro, where he was beating up Sven Computer, back when Sven Computer was not you know, a distant memory. There's plenty of others. E.T., when they've done the E.T. bits, that's parody, right? Because they're doing it shot for shot. And then they're just changing little things, you know. The origins of Not Gay Jared. Also, rest in peace, brother, wherever you've been. Yeah, pretty funny. Pretty darn funny. So we dug into that a little bit, and it was good. But let's see. Ghost. Oh, my gosh, the Ghost one. Yes, Gulliver's Travels. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That makes sense. Kind of allegorical in the way they're doing that too. Yeah, a lot of good novelists will disguise what they're doing through satire, you know, or they'll make satire and disguise it as something else. And then be like, no, I'm not doing that. What are you talking about? It's just a children's story, right? You know, to the people that they want to say that to. But it was fun. I said in the description I was going to talk about music, so I've got a couple minutes. I might say something about music. So I'm getting ready to work on another track with my good friend Brett, and he just showed me some of the beginnings of it. We were talking about the mix. Like, we're not just doing the drumming. I'm not in there to just play drums. Exactly. Plausible deniability. That makes sense. Warface. Bonus meme. So we're working on stuff, but I'm not just in there to do drums. I'm also helping with arrangements a little bit and how we're structuring some of that. And we're talking about the mix. He's getting my advice and he's showing me a lot of things. He's the master mixer guy. He's the masterer, mastering engineer, mixing engineer. He's fantastic at that stuff. But with his music, you know, we're really trying to dig into, I'm on the TV. That's great. We're trying to dig into how we structure the mix down and then how we master it. We want the song to sound very engaging and full. We want certain things to pop out in the songs at different moments. And that's a science. It's an art and a science combined. It's so wild, everything that goes into that. So he pulled up this track that a buddy of his suggested to him, and the buddy was really excited about the way the mix was structured. And when he listened to it on his $4,000 speakers, when the buddy brought it over and when they played it there, it was totally different. It was like, you want this? You know, and I think his buddy even said, I don't think your speakers have it. He's like, my speakers are $4,000 speakers. They've got it. Trust me. So it's like, it's the song. It has to be whatever this mix. It turns out that song that they were listening to had two different versions. There was one that had been done in like 2008, and then a remaster that had been done in 2014. And the remastering was a completely different ballgame. When he downloaded that, he got a copy of that. We listened to that one together, and I could hear the way they structured this mix down. Like the bass, the drums, the vocals were all at the front of the mix. Like they were right there. They were clear. They were pristine. You could make out subtle details in the bassist's playing, like little things sliding up and down the neck, articulations he's doing down here on the with his or her right hand, you know, plucking and different things that they're doing, slap stuff. And you could hear all of those little articulations, some of the sweeter tone in the strings when they're harmonizing with each other. He might be playing a couple notes together and getting harmonies. And that really came through. And that's not that common. You don't usually hear that in the mix. The drums, the kick punched in your face right with that bass part really, really well. And the vocals were not a lot of reverb. They were right up there. You could clearly hear everything that the singer was saying. You felt like you were right there with them in a room. Then there were horns. There were like trumpets and different things like that. And they were sprinkled over the top end, the high register of the mix. Like it cut out a lot of the low end parts of the horns. They were fairly dry. They didn't have a lot, when I say dry, not a lot of reverb, not a lot of, like, doesn't sound like they're in a big hall or anything. There was some on there, but it was like very, very short amount of it. It just was like, it was very, very organic, very right there. And there was something a little gritty about the horn part too. There was a lot of movement in that melody line, in the horn line. So they're playing like faster 8th notes and 16th note bits that were going on in there. So it was various horns playing those things in unison, right? Or harmonizing, but the same rhythm. And it was neat because they placed it in a different spot in the mix. It wasn't as full, but it fit. It was like this grittier, like New York-y kind of sound to it. Something I liked about that. And just the way that they layered all this stuff together was atypical of what Brett would probably be used to in the way he does his work, but it was great. I mean, it was so good. Like, I really liked it, and it fit that song because it was kind of funky. So we were listening to that and thinking, what elements of this could we apply to what we're doing? Anyway, just something that's going to be fun with the tunes he and I are working on. Plus, if you stayed to the end of yesterday, you heard a little bit of this 80s synth piece that I wrote, but it's actually not, I didn't write it, I arranged it. It's an old hymn called All Creatures of Our God and King. And it was just on my mind because I'd recently rewatched some of the Stranger Things series. And so 80s synth stuff was definitely on my mind, and I thought, boy, it'd be fun to really take something like that and do it and have fun with it, you know. Hey, bro, I'm Bear. What's up, dude? Jay Ren's in the house. So, and you're just in time for me to leave. Yeah, we're working on some of that. I'm going to get some acoustic stuff going on. We're about to set the acoustic kit up at Brett's house, and we're going to mic it up and record acoustic drum tracks to some of what I've already shown you from the Mighty Flame song, and there's another one called Song of the Redeemed that's going to be so good. So good. I can't wait. All these tunes are just awesome. The New Jerusalem, that's going to be intense. Oh, I can't wait to share these tunes with you when they come out, guys. It's going to be a while. Branson's up in here. Good to see you again, man. I'm sorry. You keep getting in here when I'm done. Shoot for 7:30. I'm shooting for 7:30 tomorrow. So shoot for being around at that time if you could possibly be up then. Yeah, if you want to catch me then. But it's going to be good, brother. It's going to be some good stuff. All right, Bears, I have to say I love you all, and I want you to be encouraged today. It's cold. It's snowing where I'm at. But with the warmth that you bring, that will determine how much that's going to negatively impact you. What are you going to do with the people that you encounter today? What are you going to do to positively influence their life in some way? Think about that throughout your day. Think about new things that you can do, cool stuff. Like Owen's talking about, he loves it when people just do stuff. They make cool things. There's a cat that was dogging him on Twitter the other day, and about, he's got this special that's all free on Amazon Prime right now. Like, why would I want to watch this when I've got Gaffigan and all this other stuff? And I said, he actually called out a a person that was abusing their child, forcing them into hormone blockers. He called out evil, and he was blocked off Twitter for it. So you're a sheep. Defend the weak. Well, defend the people who ought to be defended, and speak life into those that need it. Engage your mind, engage your body, engage your heart. Seek to serve the ultimate purpose. I love you, Bears. Peace to everybody.